Good afternoon. Happy Friday afternoon. I hope your week has been okay. Thank you for joining me at a slightly later time today. It's really hard fitting everything in on school holidays, as I'm sure any of you who are doing the juggle of kids and work would know. I've been doing Brisbane City Council library workshops all this week. I've done two today. Today I've been to Bulimba Library where I've done a slam poetry and poetry workshop, and then I hightailed it over to Carina Library where we did a Mamie workshop, and we made bush baby wands out of natural materials which I stole out of my mother's garden and my neighbour's garden. Hi Sam and Stuart, that was us up in your garden this morning. I can see Michelle and Melissa have joined me again. Thank you, ladies, for helping me earlier and telling me this was all working. Can one of you give me a thumbs up now and tell me you can hear me and see me? Yeah, I've also had some internet issues with, well, not internet issues, I've had some Facebook issues where, I haven't been able to mirror image. So I'm trying this on my laptop this afternoon and I'm hoping that it's working. Oh, yay, some thumbs up for some people. All right, well, I'll get stuck straight in because I know that it's a Friday night and it's probably not a great time of day for you all. I am just sitting in my kitchen and see, like, that part of the bench looks really clean. If I turn the computer around, it wouldn't look so clean, but enjoy that vision of a clean kitchen bench. I also had to face this way because I've just got kind of, I've got all of the new books that are coming up sort of stacked up the other end of the kitchen bench, and I think there's probably embargoes on those and I'm probably not allowed to show them yet. So anyway, this is like the neat part of my house. The rest of my house is not looking so neat. The rest of my life is not looking so neat. The back of my car at the moment, because I've been doing workshops all week, is completely full of gum leaves and gum nuts and watercolor paints. I just feel like I'm yeah. Oh, anyway, school holidays, aren't they fabulous? Just love them. All right, first book I want to talk to you about today is Can You Find 12 Busy Bees? It is by Gordon Winch and Patrick Shervington, and it is really, really, really beautiful. It follows on from their book of maybe 2 years ago called Can You Find Me, which was, actually I just noticed there's a picture of Can You Find Me on the back cover of the book. Can You Find Me was absolutely beautiful, from the same team, and it was looking at finding bush babies. This one is looking at finding creatures in your backyard, and I really, really like it. It's got gorgeous end papers with some natives, it looks like to me, flannel flowers and wattle on the end papers, and they're really, really pretty end papers. Pretty, what an inane word. How dare I use the word pretty to describe an end paper. They're just I find them very sophisticated illustrations. I think that the illustrations are nice and subtle. A lot of books for really young children, the illustrations are primary colours and they're very bright and they can be a bit cartoon-like. I think this one's a bit of a nice departure from that. It's nice to read all sorts of different illustrative types, and I just think this one is gorgeous. So you can see from that it's a counting book and a finding book. So it's got things like, we love our garden, we hope you, oh no, I can't read that page, that's the last page. We live in the garden, we like to take food from the flowers. Can you find us? We are 12 busy bees. And then you need to look in the illustration and find the 12 busy bees. It's sophisticated, it's elegant, it's really lovely, and they've done such a great job. We live in the garden, we like to show off our beautiful backs. Can you find us? We are 11 lovely lady birds. We are 10 rowdy rainbow lorikeets. We live in the garden, we like to sip sweet nectar in the banksia tree. Can you find us? It's just super nice to have for early childhood a book set in an Australian backyard with some Australian native animals and some introduced species, but just ones that you're likely to find, so that you can use that one in your kindergarten setting or at home, and then you can go and find those things and create them. All right, my next book I want to share with you is a gorgeous one. It's Knox, the Viking and the Island of Skeletons, and it is by the unbelievably talented team Nick Falk and Tony Flowers. Now, I do need to give a disclaimer on this one. I know Tony Flowers reasonably well. I know him just through the children's literature world, but when I've met him at things like the Story Arts Festival Ipswich, you know, we could talk down the house. He did also out me at the Story Arts Festival as having a minor long-term crush on Matt Otley, which was, you know, thanks, Tony. He outed me to Matt Otley. So, yeah, I do know Tony Flowers quite well. He is absolutely delightful. Dan really loved him as well. And actually, one of Dan's favourite series of books was the Samurai versus Ninja books, which were also by Nick Falk and Tony Flowers. And I found this one the other day. There's a whole series of them that we have, and they're all signed to Dan. So that makes me both, you know, incredibly sad, but it's also lovely to have books which are signed to Dan. This one says, "To the mighty Dan's son, Master Ninja." And there's a picture that he's drawn down there. So, you know, Dan loved ninjas. And in fact, Peter Carnivus has just done a little touch to Dan in his latest picture book as well, to do with samurais and ninjas. And I do love everything that Tony Flowers does. He's just an incredibly talented man. He actually has written the girls quite a few letters since Dan has passed away as well. And he's done things like, he knew Dan loved the Samurai versus Ninja books, so he sent us some pictures from them. These ones are actually framed at home, but I took them out of the frames because they don't ever show up very well on video, but he's just a really talented man. Okay, so Vognox the Viking. I'm really hoping, I don't know if anybody from Affirm is listening, but I'm really hoping that this is, oh gosh, it is Affirm, isn't it? Yes, Affirm is the publisher. I'm really hoping this is going to become a series. It is so clever, as everything these two do is. Look at that cover for starters. It's a cutout cover, and while librarians around the country may scream, I won't. I love a bit of a cutout, and anyway, I don't cover the books. Sorry, Jasmine and Emily. I really love it. So it just adds a little bit of interest, and then it's got this fabulous full color end paper on the back cover. And then it's got this little ship. And you can see right from the start, this is a book that is going to be a real visual delight. You look in through this die cut and it's just fabulous. The illustrations, I'll tell you a bit about it first. So in this series, there's this little Viking called Vognox, and he is not wanting to be in an adventure. It starts, "No, I don't want to, and there's nothing you can do to make me. Stop it, I refuse. I'm not going out that door. I don't care if there are people reading this book. I don't care if they want to read an exciting adventure story. I don't like adventures. Adventures are scary." I am with him. Anyway, he does not want to be in this book, but you can see what's happening. The illustrator's pencil is pushing him out the door and into the story. "Stop, wait, please. There's something out there, a monster, a horrible monster with terrible fangs. It'll bite me on the bottom." And then, you know, he is kind of drawn into this book. He really doesn't want to be, oh, literally and figuratively, he's being drawn into this book. I didn't mean to say that. It's really funny. He's got his little sidekick, Drax, who's a dog, who's based on Tony Flowers' dog, Freya. It looks exactly like Freya. Not that I've actually met Freya, but I've seen pictures of on Facebook of Freya. And yeah, so this poor little Viking really doesn't want to go on an adventure. And then the awful authors, see that? The awful author's pencil gets stolen. So he's like, "Yay, I don't have to be drawn anymore. I don't want to go on to an adventure." But then he's like, "Oh, hang on. You won't be able to draw me anymore without a pencil." So then he's obviously got to go and find the pencil back. Oh my gosh, it is so clever. It's a really fast-paced adventure. It's super funny, as all of their books are, but, oh, and look at that final end paper. Stunning. But, oh my gosh, you know what I love about this? This is visual literacy at its finest. In this story, now I've read lots of other books like this one, which shall remain nameless, that try to do this, where there's an illustrator and an author, and the illustrations are meant to carry part of the story. Holy dooly. In this one, the illustrations actually lead the story. You cannot read this one without reading the illustrations as well. And for those of you who don't know, visual literacy is the ability to be able to read images. And we live in a world of visuals. Our children are surrounded by visuals, and like no other time before, we have to be teaching visual literacy, this ability to read what is happening in an image. And books like this one, they just, you know, they just teach visual literacy like nothing else. Picture books are the masters of it, but, you know, this one, look on that page, there is no words at all. You literally have to read the illustrations. And if you just read the words, this book would make no sense whatsoever. Tony Flowers is actually doing his PhD through the University of Canberra in visual literacy. And although I don't really know very much about what he has done so far, and obviously he won't be able to publish anything until his thesis is published, I'm really looking forward to what he has to say about visual literacy. I've written a chapter in my book on visual literacy because I think it's incredibly important. And for any parents out there that have got small people or even older people, you know, please don't ever give up on picture books. I just spoke to a mum today that was really keen to move on to chapter books, and I said, and that's fine, chapter books are great for attention and all those sorts of things, but please don't ever leave picture books behind. They are just so incredibly important in teaching our children how to read visuals and make sense from them. Okay, I am going to, somebody did a cranky face before. Did I say something inappropriate? I don't know, maybe I said something inappropriate. Michelle, yes, Murray did a really nice job of my kitchen. My kitchen bench would not look that nice if Murray hadn't zhuzhed my kitchen. Oh, in fact, if she hadn't designed the whole thing. She's a wonder and a very dear friend. Okay, the next books that I want to talk about are these two. They are both by Lisa Nichol, and I'll talk about this one first. This one is called Dr. Boogaloo and the Girl Who Lost Her Laughter. This one I did have a review of on my blog. It was one of my favorite reviews I ever wrote, and in the changeover we appear to have lost it. But anyway, in the upgrade of my blog, I'm going to rewrite it. Oh gosh, look at those end papers. I never knew it had end papers. I just adore this book. This book was the, after Dan passed away, I found it, because he did all of the bedtime reading. I found it really hard to read to the girls, and I just, at night time, it wasn't my job, it was his job, and I read books all day. And I just found it really hard to just get started, and the girls would have known that, you know, that was his job and now it was my job, and it was just really hard. This was the very first book that I read to my girls at night after he passed away, and I wanted something that was just joyous. I could not have picked a better book. It's been out of print for a while, and I am just beside myself that it is back in print. I think it's in paperback now. I've got the hardback. I think it's now in paperback. You know, look, if you just want something that's really joyous, just please click and buy this darned book and the next one that I'm going to talk about. It's just really full of joy. There's a lot of books out there, and I love them. I love the issues books. I love books which have got, you know, really deep themes in them that make children think and extend their thinking. But I also love books which just fill children with joy, and this is one of them. In this one, the main character is Dr. Boogaloo, as you probably guessed, and he has like a hospital where he treats things with music. So he can fix your sore tummy, or he can fix whatever, just by working out what music will cure you. And this little girl on the front cover is called Blue, and she has not laughed in 72 days. And she has a mother and father who are quite absent. The mother's quite unusual. They live in this very white house, and mum's really, really obsessed with white at this point. And she must have been going, I think she was going through a blue phase when she had Blue, and that's why her name is Blue. And the parents are they're just very remote. Anyway, Blue is destroying mum's aesthetic in the house by not laughing. All children should laugh, according to her, and of course all children should laugh. So she is sent off to Dr. Boogaloo and his wife to, you know, oh wow, I just noticed how bad my fingernails were. She's sent off to Dr. Boogaloo treatment facility to sort her out. It's just, I cannot explain I love music. Dan loved it more than me, but I love music, and I absolutely fully believe in the power of music to cure so many things. And this book just, look, it's just even really interesting print and everything. This book just is beautiful. It explains musical instruments. It goes through different musical types, most of them made up. Dr. Boogaloo has an iBike that you can ride on. It's amazing. His wife is divine. Everything about it is just utterly gorgeous. He basically, you know, he does say there is nothing that can't be treated through good music, and it's just an utterly joyous book. There are moments in it that are heavy in the sense that Blue's parents are, you just want to shake them. They're just kind of ridiculous, but it's just beautiful. I just cannot tell you how much I enjoyed that book. It is for, I would say 9 to 10-year-olds as a independent read, or you could read it aloud. I read it aloud to my girls when they were about, what was that, 5 and 7. But I would recommend it slightly older just to get full comprehension from it. There's no harm, of course, in reading a book to a child aloud when they are younger, but I just think that every book has its perfect place, and sometimes it's really nice just to keep a book for when it's perfectly aimed for. So I think that one to me is about a 7, 8 up. And then Vincent and the Grandest Hotel on Earth, also by Lisa Nichol, has just come out, I think, yesterday. And oh, it's just glorious. Like with Dr. Boogaloo, I read it in one sitting. I read Dr. Boogaloo aloud to my kids, as I said, but I read it aloud in one sitting first. I just literally couldn't put it down. I was the same with this one. It just was so full of joy. I cannot describe to you how beautifully warm and whimsical and stuffed full of joy Lisa Nichol's writing is. It's just beautiful. So in this one, there is a young boy called Vincent, funnily enough, and he has inherited his grandfather's shoe shining kit. And they're reasonably, they're living in, not poverty, but, you know, Dad works at the, I was going to say kitty litter factory, but kitty food factory, local kitty food factory, pet food factory. And Mum has had to stay at home since Vincent's brother was born, Tom. Tom has some sort of medical condition, and he requires around-the-clock care. And Mum and Dad have been really quite stressed with their children, particularly since the round-the-clock care that Tom requires. And Vincent is shoe shining one morning, in fact, his first morning shoe shining at a local train station, and he is approached by a girl called Florence and a guy called Rupert, and they invite him to be the shoe shiner for the summer at the Grandest Hotel on Earth, which is a hotel close by Vincent's town, where basically dreams come true. So in this hotel, the Grandest Hotel on Earth, there is everything you could ever imagine, and then literally things that you can only imagine, like gumballs that you put in your mouth, and they're whatever flavour you want. Gumballs or gobstoppers, they become whatever flavour you want. All Vincent can ever think about is bacon and cheese, those bacon and cheese balls when he puts one in his mouth, so they always taste like that, but they could be anything you want. This hotel has got amazing rooms, like the baby memories room, and I think there's an inflatable room. There's I think a chocolate room with a chocolate couch that never melts. The rooms are astonishing. It is just beautiful. Like, you could never, having read this book, the next time you go to a hotel, you'd be like, well, this is just, you know, not the Grandest Hotel on Earth. No hotel in the world could ever match up to it, because I guess it's imagined in the head of someone very, very clever in Lisa Nichol. It is beautiful. There is, it's like Dr. Boogaloo, it's just joyous. It's really heartwarming. It's just so nice to read a story where it's just incredibly joyous. Someone keeps doing cranky face emojis. What am I saying that's like making you cranky, people? Or is that a mistake? I do that sometimes. I hope I'm not saying anything cranky inducing. There is then a little drama in the sense that, of course, nothing can be truly wonderful. You can't have the most beautiful things in the world that, you know, you can't be given everything you've ever wanted without there being a bit of a kickback, I suppose. So Vincent is sort of tempted a little bit into going into the futures room and looking into the future, and he sees some things that he's not really happy with, or he's very worried about, in fact, and he basically wants to slow down time or stop time so that these things that he sees in the futures room don't happen. It's a beautiful story. When you read the last bit of it, and this isn't really a spoiler, but they're in the acknowledgement sections. I think it's in the acknowledgement sections. Yeah, it is. Lisa Nichol, the author, talks about a little boy who helped her write this book, and in fact she calls him the co-author, and that's Finley. And Finley Wright, Kerno, was the co-author in case for his beautiful, original and magical ideas. And Finley had a childhood cancer and very sadly passed away, I believe, before the book was published. But he helped to think of some of the amazing rooms in this hotel. And the book has got a really strong narrator voice, and Finley is the co-author and the co-narrator in a sense. It's a beautiful story. I mean, you have to suspend reality, but shouldn't that be something that we want our children to do? We want our children to imagine the most wonderful things possible in the world. And they know that some of their dreams may never happen, but isn't it wonderful just to suspend belief for a while and just enter into a world like Vincent's? It's got overtones of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, very much overtones of Roald Dahl, I thought. It's just utterly beautiful. Again, I would say it's for readers from 8 or 9. A bit like Dr. Boogaloo. If you want giftable books that are just completely joyous, please just buy them. Like, I hesitate to say the word modern classics because I hate saying that term because, you know, what is a modern classic? But they're just stunning. They're just so joyous, so full of joy. I really, really like them. There's also pocket dogs in Vincent. I mean, I've always wanted a pocket dog. I always wanted a dog in my pocket all the time. I just think that would be magical and wonderful. And there's llamas and jetpacks and oh my glory. I just bloody loved it. Bloody loved it, I tell you. Anyway, and then my final books are The Road to Winter, or the Winter series by Mark Smith. These are those, and these ones are definitely young adult. So these are absolutely, definitely young adult. Make no mistake. These are for readers from, I would say, 14 or 15 plus. So in these books are dystopian, post-apocalyptic dystopian perhaps. They're set in a future Australia, in a town called Anglesea. And there's a town in just outside of Yamba called Anglesea that I've been to before. But it's spelt different. No, Angori, is it? It's spelt slightly differently. Anyway, it's not a real town, I don't think, but it feels like any Australian small town, and it's got a really strong sense of place, this book. So in this, oh my glory, things are just popping up all over my screen. So in future Australia, we've basically been wiped out by a virus. The virus isn't named, but it could be something as simple as the flu. It's or as complex as the flu. It's wiped out most people, and it's particularly really destroyed the female population. So females are quite prized. In this future Earth, there are also Sileys, and Sileys are asylum seekers who've been kept in offshore detention and then sold at public auction as slaves. So we are in future Australia at a time when things are going really badly, and the main character, whose name is Finn, he has had 3 winters by himself without seeing another person except an elderly neighbour. He's surviving on stores of food that his family had tried to bank up, but both of his parents have died from the virus. And again, I say it's young adult. Both the parents die, and you read about them dying. And he then meets this young girl who I feel like is called Rose. Now I can't think. Rose? I think I made that up. Finn, Kaz, and Willow. Rose. There is a Rose. It's Rose. So Rose meets him, and he has not seen a girl for this entire 3 years, or even someone around his age. And he needs to help her. She's in a terrible predicament, and she's being followed. She is a Siley, and she has escaped from Ramage and his team of wilders or wilders who are after her. And it is pretty awful. It's pretty violent. And so astonishing. The sense of place in this book, the sense of there's great descriptions of surfing, there's great descriptions of the town, there's great descriptions of this young boy, Finn, who's the main character. He's got quite a significant speech impediment, and just everything works. We don't actually even know a lot about the virus or the world in general. The story is really character driven. It's incredibly fast paced. So good. It's so reminded me of Tomorrow When the War Began, or that not even, no, it didn't even remind me of that. It reminded me of the feeling I had when I first read Tomorrow When the War Began when I was about 14 or 15. I just didn't want the story to end. Unfortunately, it doesn't end. Hello. So it's amazing. If you've got readers from around 14 or 15, this is a series for them, particularly if they're reluctant readers. It's just so fantastic. I'm really looking forward to meeting Mark Smith when he comes up to Brisbane later in the year. Super duper enjoyed it. One last thing I want to show you before I go. I've been talking forever. I'm just basically now talking to myself, I'm sure, because, you know, it's Friday night. What else do I have to do? Georgia is turning 7 next week, and she doesn't like friends she doesn't like friends parties. She finds friends parties quite overwhelming, so she just wants to have a family party, and she wants to go bouldering because my brother and his partner have taken both the girls bouldering a few times, and she loves it. Bouldering is rock climbing without ropes. So I ordered from a place called Custom Cookie Cutters. I ordered a rock climbing cookie cutter. I don't know if Justine's still on there, but I was talking to Justine, my VA, earlier in the week on email about how I wanted to find a cookie cutter that would, oh my gosh, I can't even put the thing together. Anyway, it'll be fine. So I've got a little girl bouldering, and we're going to make cookies. So I think that will be fantastic. And the girls were really excited that we got something in the mail that wasn't a book. And it was really, really funny. I had to go down to the post office to pick this parcel up. And the lady at the post office said, "Oh, no, you don't have anything." And then she said, "Oh, no, hang on, you do. It's in a different section." She said, it doesn't look like a book, and it's in like the small parcel section. And she said, "And I also only pick up the rectangular packages for you because you only ever get books." And I said, "Well, I'm a librarian, you know." So anyway, it was waiting down at the post office for me, and I'm going to make cookies with it, so that will be fun. Hope you have a great weekend. I've got some more workshops next week, and my website has been a bit of a nightmare this week, but I'm hoping it's all sorted out now. So if you want to come along to any of my events, they will be all back up on my events page super soon, and we've got a really exciting announcement coming up in Your Kids Next Read, maybe even tonight if I get around to it. Okay, have a great weekend. Thanks so much.